So let's talk about AI at work. We were all promised this productivity revolution, right? The tool that was finally going to save us from burnout. But is that what's really happening? Or is AI just making things worse?
And that's the big paradox we're going to dig into. On the one hand, AI was supposed to be this amazing tool to lighten our load. But then you talk to people, and a whole lot of them are saying it's actually adding to their stress. So what is the real story here?
To really get what's going on, we have to rewind a little bit. We have to go back to the beginning, to this incredible promise that generative AI was supposed to bring to all of us at work.
I mean, the stage was perfectly set for something new. For years now, experts have been calling our work culture the Great Exhaustion. We're all feeling it, right? We're overworked, we're constantly connected, we're just overwhelmed. We were a workforce that was absolutely desperate for a solution.
And then, right on cue, generative AI shows up. And it was framed as the hero we'd all been waiting for. This was the tool that was going to draft our emails, summarize all those long meetings, and take care of the boring stuff, freeing us up for the big, creative, important work.
And the view from the top? It was incredibly optimistic. An Upwork survey found that a staggering 96% of executives expected AI to boost productivity. They saw it as this magic bullet for efficiency. But what was happening down on the ground floor? Well, that was a very, very different story.
Okay, so that was the promise. Now let's take a look at the reality for the employees, the people actually using these tools day in and day out.
In that exact same survey, a shocking 77% of employees who were using generative AI said it had actually added to their workload and was hurting their productivity. I mean, that is a huge gap between what was expected and what was actually happening. So, what gives?
Well, this whole disconnect really comes down to what you could call the hidden work of AI. First, these tools, they're not perfect, right? They can hallucinate, they can just make stuff up, which means people have to spend a ton of time just reviewing and fixing everything. Second, there's a big learning curve, and a lot of the time, there's no formal training. And finally, and this is a big one, the expectations for how much one person can produce have just shot through the roof, but none of their other tasks have been taken away.
This quote from a user on Reddit, it just perfectly captures that feeling on the ground. The promise of AI was used to demand more and more, but when the tech couldn't quite deliver, it was the human employees who were left to pick up the slack. And that just led to more work, not less. So we've got two completely different stories here. We've got the hype from the executives, and then we've got the burnout from the employees. To find out what's really going on, we have to look past the surveys and anecdotes and check out a huge scientific experiment. This is the big question, isn't it? Is AI a productivity miracle or just another burden? Well, luckily for us, a massive new study gives us some of the clearest answers we've ever had on this. Researchers from Microsoft and Harvard actually ran this huge experiment on Microsoft's own AI tool, Copilot. What they wanted to do was measure, in the real world, how getting access to this AI actually changed the way people work.
And listen, this was no small study. We're talking about over 7,000 workers across 66 different big companies, and it ran for 6 months. And here's the most important part. They randomly assigned who got the AI tools. That makes this the gold standard for figuring out a real cause and effect relationship.
So, what did they find? Well, the single biggest, most concrete discovery was something that, let's be honest, we all dream about. A real, measurable dent in our inbox. Yeah, just let that number sink in for a second. The study found that people who actively used the AI tool spent 2 fewer hours on email every single week. That's a 17% drop in the time spent just staring at your inbox. For anyone who feels buried in email, that is a game changer.
And saving all that time? It had a real impact on work-life balance. Those same workers cut down the amount of work they did after hours by 9%. So the time they saved wasn't just filled with other tasks, some of it was actually given back to them as personal time.
But here's where the nuance is so important. Because what AI didn't change is just as revealing. The study found no big change in how much time people spent in meetings or writing complicated documents. So this tells us that AI isn't some universal fix-all. Its impact is super specific. It's great at structured things like email, but for now, it's not as effective for the messy, collaborative stuff like a team meeting.
And this wasn't just a fluke or people being excited about a new toy. This graph from the study shows the impact over the entire 6 months. You see those red and blue dots? They represent the AI users, and they are consistently below that zero line. That means they were spending way less time on email than the group that didn't have AI. The effect was real and it lasted. Okay, so how do we put all of this together? You've got the incredible hype, you've got the frustrating reality that some people are living, and you've got these really specific findings from the data. How do we bridge that gap?
This table pretty much sums up our whole journey here, right? The hype saw AI as this magic bullet. The burnout story saw it as just one more burden. But the data? The data gives us a much clearer verdict. AI is a really powerful, specialized tool that's extremely good at saving time on specific things, and email is the #1 example.
So here's the main takeaway. Both the wild hype and a complete dismissal, they're both wrong. AI is not going to solve all our problems at work overnight. And yeah, it can create new ones if it's not rolled out correctly. But the evidence is clear. When you point it at the right tasks, it can give us back the one thing we can never make more of, our time.
And that leaves us with one last really interesting question. The technology is proven it can save us time. The real challenge now is deciding what we do with it. Do we just fill those 2 hours with more tasks, or do we use that time to finally, maybe, escape the great exhaustion? That's a question not for the technology, but for us.